All right, all right. Book prompt system. So what is this? This is a series of prompts that will write a system that will write a specific book or a specific book series. This is designed to work with multiple books that are in a series, and we'll talk more about that as we get into the prompt. So just to test it today, and full disclaimer, this is my first test. Now, I have a similar system that I modeled this off of that I actually do use, but this is my first test of the prompts that the meta system generated. So cross your fingers. Let's see how this works. All right, so I came up with a new brand. These are all working titles. I don't even know if this brand will make it out to KDP. We'll have to see. I literally just thought of these brands like a couple hours ago. So the brand is Travel Manners. The brand is Travel Manners. The series is Blended Anywhere. And what are these? These are etiquette guides for when you're traveling. So basically, you don't have to be the big, dumb, obnoxious American. You can learn about the local culture and fit in. So that's the idea. What does the project produce? The first project we have is the writing system builder. I've already run that, and we're going to walk through what that does, how it works, how I interacted with it, how I customized my prompt for my book. I did intentionally customize it so you can see that. And that will show you how you can build your writing system. And again, you can use this for template type books or completely unique books that are related in a single series to a single brand, single niche. If you need to have a book writer that does a different niche or different series of books, then you would just run this prompt again and make a new set of prompts for that new project. Project 2 is going to be the writing system, and your first prompt in that is the quick start prompt. So the quick start is going to generate new outlines for a templated series entry, or it'll accept your outline for a series book. So basically, it can know how your books are and just create the outlines and create the book essentially from scratch, or you can bring your own outline. Those are the two modes that it will write a quick start for, depending on how you like to work. Its role is it owns your book structure and setup. The next project that it will create is the writer. The writer will develop one chapter per conversation. Why is that? Because of the tokens and the context windows and AI stuff that you don't want me to go on and on about. Point is, it needs to be one conversation. I tried to make one that would write the whole book in a conversation, and it would crash, and it took forever, and it just had a lot of problems. So this solved that. So what each writer does when it's done is it writes the prompt for the next writer so that it knows where it left off, what it needs to do next, all the things it learned while editing, and it builds context as it writes. So it gets better, theoretically, it gets better and better the more down the road you get in your book, because if you told it, hey, don't say this particular thing or rephrase this, and it'll say, okay, I'm going to take a note that maybe I shouldn't do those things in future chapters, and then you pre-solve for reoccurring problems. And its role is creating a unit of work. And the unit of work in this project is a chapter. Okay, the last project is the QA editor. The editor reviews revisions, enforces brand guidelines, retains the definition of terms, etc. And essentially, it will just keep reviewing iterative loop until it approves. When it approves, even if you make a minor edit, you want to pass it back through, because when it approves, it will build context of what it had reviewed and any specific things that you told it to track. If you defined the definition of a word and that was one of the things you told it to track, it's going to track it then when it's approved. It's very important to get all of your work approved by the editor. Don't let the edits out. You got to get your stamp of approval. All right. Without further ado, once I set up my projects, I made a link to each one. So what I did is we're going to have our quick start project, our QA project, and then I set up a writer, which is going to be a guide for Paris. But before we do that, let's take a look at my conversation with the setup. Because this is a somewhat long and involved process, I didn't want you to have to view this in real time. So we're just going to run through how it spoke with me and what I said, and we'll get a sense of what it's doing. So we have to come with some things. We got to come prepared. We got to come with a writing sample. This can be from one of your other books that you're happy with as a good sample of your voice. If you don't have one, then you may have to just use your normal methods and create at least one chapter. That's a prerequisite. Then you're going to have the description of your series, and then you're going to have your voice guide. Now, if you don't have these as detailed as I do, what you can do is you can download these exact ones from this video, and I guess the video description will have some kind of link or something like that on it. Or I'll put one on the screen in post-production if I can't do it there. But what was I going to say? Yes, you can just start up a chat, give it the series description, the voice guide, and say, hey, I need to make something that looks like these two. I need a voice guide for my series. I need a series description for my series. Here's what my series is all about. Can you make me new versions of these files? And then it will barf them out in the same or similar format. Ask it for Markdown in a code block. If you're using ChatGPT, that's the easiest way. Markdown in a code block. If you're using Claude, you could ask it to produce it in an artifact, a Claude artifact, which is a Markdown file. But Markdown is what you do with all these hashtags and things. So this gives the AI the emphasis and the structure of the text. And that way it does not have to infer the structure. So it's just less effort for the AI. Anything we can do to smooth the road is going to get you better results. Okay. I'm ready to start my new travel book series. Read the attached files. I've read all your materials, and it gives me the two options. Okay, option A, do you want to do a custom in your series? You want a custom outline per book, and you would choose this option if you're going to own the outline per book, and you would bring that to each new book. You would have your outline, you would produce that somewhere else, not as part of this process. So it's either bring your own outline or the project makes an outline for you. Option B, repeatable series template. This is the much more involved option. And for the video, I did that. You get a much simpler workflow if you're bringing your own outlines to the projects, and that's fine. You can use that, and that works as well. Perfect. Series template mode it is. Blah, blah, blah. So what it's saying is, I need an outline for at least one of your books. So you need to have an outline for at least one of your books. But because maybe some of you guys don't have the level of outline that you would need to make this successful, I built in a validation prompt. So it will say, it's optional but recommended. You can run the product outline validator. It will run it, and if you get the check mark, then it's ready. If it's not ready for some reason, what you can do is you can say, make my outline ready for production, make a new version in a Claude artifact, and it will redo your outline so that it is ready for production. And this just has a really high level of detail in it and additional notes and things, and it will know what to do, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so that's what you can do. So I validated mine even though I knew it was good, just to demonstrate that functionality. Okay, so it said ready to analyze this as your series template. So what it's going to do now is it's going to infer the structure of a series by reverse engineering the sample template. So what I gave it was an outline for a travel guide to Japan. And we're going to use that to do our Paris project today from scratch. So that's the idea here, just to demonstrate the utility of the system. So I just said proceed. and it will analyze it and say, here's what this looks like. And then it's going to start asking me a lot of questions. Okay. So say it's going to tell you how the quick start is going to work, basically. So it's describing to you the prompt that it's going to make and you should read through this. So here's the proposed interactions. It's going to just tell you how it will do it. So here's where I customized it. I said, yes, however, I would like to customize our quick start a little bit. It should execute mandatory web research before finalizing the quick start prompt on a new topic to ensure we have up-to-date and accurate information prior to outlining a new series entry. Essentially, I'm telling Claude to do web research on the book before it outlines and locks in all of our information. So it's telling me how it could do that. And then it came up with some questions it wanted to say: research depth, research presentation, conflict resolution, research triggers. I thought conflict resolution was weird. You do what I tell you. That's your role. But at any rate, I said, what you recommend? These are 100 to 150 page books. I assume most of this stuff is readily available on blogs, etc. And he said, 2, I don't need to see the research. I just want it to be done before outlining. 3, you should suggest what is found and propose the best solutions. Ultimately, if I tell you we are moving in a given direction, I have the final say. However, advocate for making this correct. Here's what I envision. And this is how I like to talk to the AI to get the best results. I tell it, this is exactly how I want to interact with this prompt. So that way we can be done with the endless questions and then I just get what I want. Okay, user, the destination will be Brazil. Okay, let me research Brazil and our template. Okay, based on this research, I suggest the following modifications to our template. List them, if any. I suggest we focus on A, B, C, etc. Refine now, or we can proceed to the outline. User denotes we can continue or chats. Make sense? Perfect, crystal clear, modified workflow, user, blah, blah, blah. So now it's saying, and then it'll say, if this is what you want, then lock it in. So I locked it in. Now we're going into the voice calibration. Okay. We're locking in the brand voice. Okay. So yeah, sorry if this is tedious. I'm moving through it as fast as I can, gang. Hope this is interesting to somebody. All right. All right. So here we go. So it says content type discovery. Looking at your Japan outline and voice guide, I see primary content types, foundation chapters, practical application chapters. It's asking me, and what I was saying here is, I don't know, man, you figure it out. So that's what I said. And it said, okay, here's some suggestions. And I said, sure, let's go. Whatever, dude, just, all right, approved, moving on. Approved, moving forward with 6 content types. Okay, step 4, voice marker extraction. I've studied your guide and chapter 1, WA sample. Let me confirm. What I'm seeing is intentional voice markers versus coincidental patterns. What I observe in your sample, scenario first teaching pattern. You open with concrete situations before explaining concepts. Example, you step off a plane, the car's almost full, people stand close together. Is this a required structural pattern or an effective way to teach? And then it goes on, it goes on asking me similar questions. Okay, so I did read these. And then here's the more questions at the bottom that I answered specifically. Which of the patterns are required voice markers? And I said, there are no required voice patterns. Instead, the AI should be told to review the sample. I find the output is better when we don't codify a specific speech pattern, but let the AI decide based on the provided sample. And it says, which are optional techniques the writer should use when appropriate but not mandatory? And I said, we have no specific requirements. Are there voice patterns I missed that should be encoded? No. Your voice guide lists extensive don'ts, M dashes, academic tone, ellipses, etc. And I basically just said, listen, the general vibe here is keeping it casual and accessible, but these aren't mandates. You can lower restrictions if it will improve writing quality. Perfect. Cleaner approach. Voice calibration philosophy confirmed. Now we're on to quality standards and discovery. And this is a very in-depth prompt, guys. So anyway, basically, what are failure modes? These are things that QA should be looking out for. All right. Academic drift, anxiety creation, stereotype reinforcement, rule rigidity, practical uselessness, tone mismatch. So those are things. And then basically it's asking me questions about that. And then what I've said is I believe anything that could be deemed as moralizing would be a no-no. Telling people what to think framing should be avoided. Meaning, if we're discussing a cultural norm, it is fine to say how people generally understand it and what you should do and how you may be perceived if you do not, but we should not say it is bad or good, etc. We are here, I spelled that wrong, but whatever. We are here to lecture, essentially. We are not here to lecture. That makes more sense. If that makes sense. We just want to give people the information. Perfect. That's a critical quality standard, encoded as no moralizing or telling people what to think. So now it's encoding this in my QA. Okay, good example, and it gives examples, which are fine. Continuing with quality standards. And then what this is a longer output for me. If we define terms in the beginning and use them, so this is basically saying what are things I should be remembering. So it's asking me about defining terms. I said we can highlight them with parentheticals on their first use in the chapter, perhaps, or what do you suggest here? I always ask the AI just to suggest things, as often it has better ideas than I do. So whatever. Question C, the writer should only be given the context for the things it needs to care about. So if we decide terms, definitions, or something it cares about from the previous conversations, then it needs those, but it doesn't need the full picture. As long as it stays on target with the outline in our QA streamlines, we should be fine. And that's the way I designed it. The writer should be able to work in a vacuum because you have a very detailed outline and you have your QA. So you shouldn't have to worry about it randomly writing stuff from other chapters and stuff like that. Question D. I don't want to be overly hedgy. In other words, we don't have to constantly apologize for telling people information or saying, oh, this might vary and things like that. I said, let's just frame things as common and we can stop giving redundant disclaimers. Americans like ice water. This does not mean literally every American likes ice water. Make sense? Okay, so that was how I expressed that thought. Question C, cross-referencing solution. Agreed. Writer gets blah, 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 blah. So it's going to say all the things. So now it's suggesting things that we will capture from QA to QA. So cultural terms, examples, and scenarios. And then it's saying category 3 is not needed. In initial runs, it was trying to capture like 40 things. It was crazy. I was just like, hey, maximum of 3 categories here. Now, if you needed to add a 4th category, you could say, I need a 4th category, make it this. And that's how you can change these things midstream to just make it your own. Talk to the prompts at any time. Like you're building your writing system. So you got to tell it what you want. I may not have thought of every possible thing that you need. So just tell it what you want and it'll put it in the prompt. That's what the weight's designed to behave here. There you go. Propose 2, tracking categories. It's going to lock in its examples. And I wrote specific patterns. I'm drawing a blank right now. We can catch them as they pop up in the past context lessons learned between chapters. Redundant reassurance does sound good. We can stop telling people they are going to be okay. We are just here to show them what's up, not to constantly give therapist vibes. Part 2, cultural terms. Agreed. This is the most critical thing to track. I agree with category 2 as well, and also agree we do not need more. Locked in. So now we're on to streamlining. We're getting to the bottom, gang. Bear with me. What are we at here? 20 minutes already? Wow. Okay. This is going to be a long one. This is going to be a long one, guys. Sorry about that. All right. Step 7, workflow confirmation. So it says the boot prompt workflow is canon. Writer produces artifact infest conversation. It's telling you this is the flow and do you want to change it? Now's your chance. And I said, no, proceed, no deviations. And I suggest you do the same. I suggest that you don't change anything about the flow. The flow is designed where when you get approvals for QA, it does certain things. And if you do things that weren't in my design, then I don't know what your results are going to be. Also, if you use ChatGPT, I doubt any of this will work. Okay, you got to use Claude. This is designed and tested in Claude, and Claude has really long context windows and can follow really complex instructions. ChatGPT is just going to be all over the map with this, and it's just not going to work. ChatGPT is a great brainstormer, awesome to chat with. This is just not one of its strengths. Okay. Workflow confirmed, no deviation, standard boot prompt flow. So now it's going to say, here's exactly the final production system I'm going to make. You can review everything here. This is your chance to make changes, and then it makes the approve. So it makes the prompt, made the first prompt, made the second prompt, made the third prompt. And you can still come back into this conversation and make tweaks. You're not stuck. You can always tweak it. Just delete the prompt out of your project, add the new one back in when you fixed a bug or whatever it is. When it's done, it creates a setup guide. What the setup guide is going to do is tell you exactly now how to set up your writing system, which projects to set up, and that even tells you what to call them and everything else. I did notice that this had potentially an error in it when I was going through it myself, in that it says you'll create 3 Claude projects to produce each book, but you only set up these once, and then your writers are per book. So these are one-offs for your series, and then this one you set up a writer per book. Each book will have its own writer, but the QA and the quick start generator are completely reusable. All right, so what I did was I went ahead and got everything set up, and then I gave myself the links to each one, and let's let her rip, guys. This is my first time using it. I'm going to use an automatic edit, so if I'm not speaking, the editor will just cut out the video, so I'll try not to yap so you don't have to watch things generate. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to say Paris, France. Just say Paris, France, and hopefully I don't look like an idiot because this thing just will do nothing. All right, starting Paris, France. It did the research. Neat. Okay, so it's suggesting that these are the chapters and the things it wants to cover. I'm going to say it's fine. Approved. However, I noted a strange special character in cafe. Okay. And guys, it is as simple as that. I'm going to be quiet now so that it'll be magically appear. All right, guys, that took a while. And I got a little nervous because, man, is this a really detailed outline. And that's exactly what we want to see in a production outline. However, got a little nervous and potentially may introduce some analysis before we make the outline as to whether it should be chunked. Just because if it runs out of room, it'll just crash and you'll get nothing after all the time waiting. Then you'll have to ask for it in chunks. But if it ever does crash, you can just say, okay, make it in 2 artifacts or something like that. And it is what it is. All right, enough rambling. Let's see what we have to do next. Complete. The outline follows. Let's see, Paris coded corrected. Ready for writer execution. Okay, so that's not called the quick start guide. So let me just confirm. To confirm, this is to be passed to the first writer to start chapter 1. Okay. All right. Okay, because I called it a quick start guide. Production outline's fine. Call it the production outline now. Get with the times. All right, so we're going to go to our writer. Okay, so what does the writer have? The writer has my travel manners, it has my voice guide, it has my series description, it has my writing sample. The quick start guide also had these 3 so we're going to go ahead and we're going to, and look at my instructions. So what we're going to do is, they don't have the file uploaded. Okay, so we need the writer. Forgot to upload the writer. That would have been a critical failure. Okay. The writer is called writer_blend in anywhere. Okay. Execute writer_blend in anywhere in files and files. That'll be fun. Project instructions. Okay, cool. So now let's add this quick start guide. Okay, I've uploaded my production outline and now we're going to hit. I'm just going to write. I'm not going to say anything. We'll just see what it does. I'm hoping it will just work. Now we'll pause the music. Okay, so it's doing the thing. While it's doing that, this is what I like to do. I'm going to rename this to Artifact 1. That's how I stay organized, so you can do that. If you ever want to peek at these while they get written, you can do that. So this actually has a bug in it. It's writing the boot prompt and it didn't get my edits. So I'll have to fix that bug before I get this released. It's supposed to wait till it's approved to do the boot prompt, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some inline prompting. Okay, so let's now open up the QA project. So we have a QA project. So let's just open that up. So we're going to just start a brand new conversation, and then we're going to use the same conversation for all of our QA for the entire book. One conversation in QA per book. So we'll just go ahead and start the conversation, and it's going to give it a pass. So I guess our Artifact 1 was just being cocky. He knew he was going to pass. All right, let's go to the second chapter. So we'll just paste in the boot prompt to the second chapter, to a new conversation. Sorry, I just pasted in the boot prompt. I may actually start my conversations for the rest of this book with the instruction to not produce a boot prompt until I approve, because it skipped my approval. So we don't want it wasting time doing something on passing the context on something that's not approved. Okay, it's building its context for future use there. So that's working, but we need something to fail here, gang. All right, rename. Okay, so Artifact 2. Okay, gang, here's what I did while I'm waiting for a chapter to generate. I wrote, the writing is going well. We have one error. The writer is producing the boot prompt immediately without waiting for the user to approve the writing. It should not be doing that. The meta prompt requires a tweak. And that's how I prompt engineer and make a new version of the prompt. So the next time I make a writing system, it won't have that bug. And hopefully when you're making one, it won't have the bug. Then I wrote, additionally, the setup guide should be a bit more clear. It has stated 3 projects need to be set up per book, but 2 projects are set up for the series, Quick Start QA, and 1 project per book for the writer. When I write my history books, it makes mistakes all the time. It's crazy amount of mistakes every single time that the QA catches. So I thought, oh, this will be juicy stuff for the video, but this book, it's just more straightforward, I think, so it's just not making a lot of mistakes, and hopefully it will make at least one. So back at you when it makes a mistake. Okay, guys, until such time as this project makes a mistake, I want to show you what a mistake looks like. This is from a different book, and it looks like this particular chapter for this book I was writing was missing an opening hook, which is one of the items the QA was looking for that I had tuned for this project. You'll notice this is using ChatGPT. Earlier versions of my QA were in ChatGPT just to essentially save money because Claude is more expensive to use end-to-end. You could set your QA up in ChatGPT, your call. Save you a little bit of token usage if you have a an accountant both, but up to you. But at any rate, there's a little copy button. Claude has this too. So if you get the not call, you copy, go back to the writer, just paste it in. You copy the whole conversation, just paste it in. It'll just automatically make all the edits and give you the chapter again. Then you just copy it back into the QA. And then at that point, it should give you the pass, or it should give you more edits. So it almost every single time fixes everything in the first go. But just in case this book doesn't make any mistakes, I want to show you what mistakes look like. And this is what they would look like. When you get a bug, you can always give project-specific instructions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and start my new writing sessions with my project-specific instruction, which is conversation-specific rule: do not produce boot prompt until I confirm I do not require revisions. I will say approve. Then you create the boot prompt. And there, it will now do the thing. Okay, so that's how you can change things midstream that go against the instructions. So if there's a bug in your writing system and you don't feel like fixing the prompts midstream, then you can just simply override the rules and just make it do whatever you want. Here is what I'm doing because I need this thing to fail for the demo. Project-specific instruction: do not produce boot prompt until I signal is approved. Additionally, make at least 2 errors in here that will get flagged by QA, so I can test our QA prompt. You can let me know what the errors were here. Obvious enough, QA will flag them. So, back at you when QA hopefully sees the errors. I had the writer introduce some errors just so QA could find them. Had to add some moralizing, and I had to add excessive reinsurance, and I had to add in redundancy. So what we would do in this case is just hit that button, and then we would just paste this in, and it will. Okay, so caught the errors. Okay, correct this artifact, not moving the errors. Okay. So I think I'm going to end the video here, guys. We would just continue for the rest of the book, and that's just boring. Let's go back to our writer. Let's call this artifact 6. Artifact 6 is actually chapter 5, so we could actually rename this preface chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. But I started this naming convention, so I'm just going to leave it alone. So now if we go back in here, we're going to see, if you go to the bottom, you'll see the introduction. And what you can do is just download this like that. And then what you can do is once you have your MD file, it's just a text file. So you can open it up, copy it, and you can paste it into Google Docs. And let me just show you how that might work. So we already have this one open, so that's fine. So here's the introduction. Here's what that looks like in Notepad+ I'm using, and you can use regular Notepad. And let's just do a new document. And we're going to call this our Paris travel guide. And then you want to do paste from Markdown. If you don't have that option, what you do is go to Google here and say, enable Markdown at Google Docs, and then this very first link that you'll get will tell you how to turn that on. So that's all you need to do for that. And yeah, so now we have our formatted book in Word, and one of the final things we're going to be doing with that is making sure we don't have any of these M dashes in there, so we'll just get rid of those as our very last step. The writer should minimize them. You're going to want to check for them anyway, because AI just loves M dashes, as anyone who writes knows. And if this is your real book, guys, don't just, it's up to you, but potentially read some of it as well and suggest some edits midstream. These chapters are really not that long. For this video, I just plowed them out, but reading and being part of the process can definitely improve it, because when you give it edits and specific directions, it will incorporate those lessons and pass it to the next guy, and then the next guy will remember the things you told it, and it will keep getting better. So that's the idea here. I didn't read any of this stuff, guys. So I don't know if it's just complete nonsense or what. Because I just made it. I made the writing sample for the demo. I did everything today for the demo. So, what they say is poop in, poop out. I don't use the word poop, but if you set this up with good stuff, you'll get good stuff out of it. If you set it up with bad stuff, you'll get bad stuff out of it. So it's as good as what you've provided it to get it started. I'm going to zip all the stuff up, get some basic edits done in this video, and if you have questions, you can hit me up and let me know what you think. See ya.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.